Most men think that they're lazy or unmotivated when it comes to fitness. One of my clients, Joe, he ended up losing 18 pounds sustainably, all while having 12-hour days at work, balancing that with his family, and also having to travel internationally for business. Now, here's the difference between Joe and most men. We ended up breaking the cycle of this all or nothing motivation by simply implementing these five simple systems into his lifestyle so that he could lose weight and succeed with his health. So in this video, I'm going to share with you those five simple systems and how even missing one could be the exact reason why you're always on and off track with your weight loss. So this is Joe. All right. He's an executive in a company. He works a ton of long hours, 12 to 14-hour days. He ends up traveling a ton, even internationally, for a lot of his business and work. And he balances all of that with time for his family. Now, when I first met Joe, one of the things that he shared with me is he said, Michael, I'm so struggling with motivation. I feel lazy sometimes, right? I've put my health last. Now, here's what I shared with him. I said, first, hey, can I be brutally honest with you? And he said, yes. And I shared, the reality is you're not lazy because let's be real, you're not a lazy person. Number one, you work a ton to provide for your family. Number two, you're invested into your family. You make it a priority, whether it's for your wife, your kids, etc., etc. And that's one of the most amazing parts about you. The reality of what's happening is that you're not applying those same principles in your work, in your family life, into your health. And that's why you always end up, number one, you're in this cycle of all or nothing. You go so hard at the beginning, but then you fall off track. That's not sustainable. Also, you don't have any accountability. You don't have somebody that's making sure you get things done because at work you have your boss. If you run your own business, then you have clients and also making money as a need to provide for your family. That's always a great accountability. And lastly, at home, in your marriage, you have your wife that holds you accountable. And using these five systems, it's the most successful that I've found, especially for busy dads. And it's a proven system that's worked for not only Joe, but for over 100 other men that have used this system. Now, system number one is that you need to have an in-season and an off-season plan. Now, let me share what I mean by this. So recently, my wife turned me into a Detroit Lions fan, all right? We have one of the flags right there. And because of that, when you look at athletes, they have an in-season and off-season plan. Everything is structured. Everything is tailored towards having them be as successful as possible in that phase. So, especially if you're a dad, you're struggling with being how busy that you are, you're going to have seasons where you're busier than and other seasons where you're not going to be as busy. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you have plans for both. Now, again, using Joe as an example, what we ended up doing is that we had a plan for when he was traveling a ton, had super long hours, and also when he was quote unquote this off season where he had a few weeks where it wasn't as busy. So when things weren't as busy, we would sprint a little bit more because we had more things that we could have control over versus when he's traveling, when you're always on the go, when you have to do a bunch of networking and business events, right? You have a little bit less control about what you're eating, what's served, and your schedule. So a few easy tweaks that I made with Joe. Number one is that we gave him, for exercise, simple bodyweight exercises to do while he was traveling. In addition, if he had access to a hotel, he'd have super simple works that he could do. And all of them were just simply 20 minutes long. So you can do that regardless of your schedule. You wake up, 20 minutes, boom, you're done. You're taking care of that exercise component. Now, on the opposite side, when he was at home, we could spend a little bit longer. We could spend 30 to 40 minutes and make sure that our workouts were continuing to push in different regards. In addition to that, we could spend time getting more steps in. So adding in different walks where he was able to walk with his kids, all right, while they were at soccer practice. Make the most out of that and just walk around. So that's a simple, easy tweak that you can make. Again, make sure you have an in-season and an off-season plan for both your exercise and your nutrition so that you can be as successful as possible and still get results. Now, system number two is to make sure that you have a team around you. Accountability is one of the most important aspects when it comes to success or failure when it comes to your health and fitness. So if you want to lose weight successfully, you need accountability, whether that's a coach, whether that's a workout partner, or whether that's investing into different things to make sure that you stick to your goals. Because let's be honest, if you try to lose weight with your wife, what ends up happening? Your wife, after a couple of days, says, "Oh, we'd be doing so well. Why don't we just treat ourselves?" Or you say you're going to lose weight, but then your wife ends up cooking something that is totally contradictory of all your goals. And let's be real, that just happens. So it's so important, again, to make sure that you have a team around you. It's not your wife's fault. It's making sure that you have the right accountability. And to drive this point even more, right? If you look at all the successful areas in your life, the most successful ones, you have accountability. In your work, you have accountability from your boss, your coworkers, your clients. In your marriage, your wife holds you accountable to a standard so that you're serving her at the highest level. So that's why, again, we need to use that principle into your health and fitness. So invest into a coach. Invest into your health and fitness. Invest in different ways by making sure that you have the right accountability. And that's why my client Joe has been so successful, because number one, by investing into his health, he shows himself by saying, you know what, my health matters. I'm investing to it because it's a priority. It's why, if you look at all these free things out there, nobody is successful with that. And if they are for a little bit, they end up just gaining the weight back. So just like your other areas of your life, accountability, invest into those. Build a team. And that is how you be successful. System number 3 is having data with non-scale victories. Now, here's what I mean by this. Non-scale victories are essentially wins outside of just a scale. So that could be your hip or waist measurement. That could be progress pictures. That could be measuring your energy. That could be having, looking at the weight that you're lifting in the gym week by week. Because all of those are super important when it comes to making sure we see the big picture of things. Because if we just use a scale, let's be honest, there are days, there are weeks where the scale might say you're at the same. Or maybe the scale might say, oh, you're up 3 pounds randomly. So if we end up just using one metric for success, we end up going crazy and we end up getting unmotivated because, oh my gosh, the scale went up 4 pounds randomly and I didn't even eat much over the weekend. So how could it say this? So again, we want to get a big picture view of everything. Now, inside of my coaching program and what I did with Joe is that we actually had all of these. We had measurements for his waist and hip. We had progress pictures. We looked at his energy, how he was sleeping, how things were changing, how his clothes were fitting. And we took these metrics to make sure that we are getting the big picture view. So for example, 1 week where the weight stayed the same, hey, Joe saw that his waist ended up shrinking. That's a big win. Over a period, hey, he lost 5 pounds and he said, Michael, I only lost 5 pounds in a month. How could that be? Yeah, but at the same time, your energy is much different. Your sleeping is better. You're not snoring. At the same time, your weights have been going up and also your clothes fit much better. So those wins are actually more important than just the scale. See, the scale only tells a small fraction of what it is, and it doesn't even tell you whether you're losing fat or building muscle or anything in between. It just tells you a number. So again, if you want to be as successful as possible, a great system to incorporate is make sure you have different points of data. Make sure that you're measuring different things than just a scale, because the scale is always going to let you down, and it's always going to lead to being unmotivated, feeling lazy, and you end up beating yourself up because for some random reason, even though you ate healthy, the weight ended up going up 4 pounds. And you're missing the fact that your energy is much better, you've done much better in your habits than last week, and also made sure that you're actually getting stronger in the process, which is super important. Now, I want to tack on one tactical thing and one example for you, because here with Joe, he ended up traveling a ton. And this is one of the biggest wins that he's had during his fat loss. So Joe, because he travels a ton, at the very beginning, he ended up messing up some of his progress. Now, you do well during the week, but then over the weekend, you end up a little bit overeating, right? And then come Monday, right? The all true or something familiar, you're like, oh, the weight is up. Oh, I have to restart again. Now, because we're able to work through different data points and make sure that we're having enough things that we're measuring, what ended up happening is that instead of Joe just beating himself up and then in this constant cycle, we looked at, all right, hey, what happened this time where you ended up gaining the weight? All right, where did you eat out? What things did you look at? And for next time, can we use those as lessons and actually improve on what you did last week? So the next time that he went and traveled, the next time that he had to go on a trip, over time, he ended up the weight staying the same and the weight actually dropping after certain situations. And those are incredible wins, because what that means is that you're making this a lifestyle. You're making this a skill where you're more in control of your habits, you're more in control of your cravings, and you're more in control of what you put in your mouth. So the biggest win that you can have is when you're measuring different data points is seeing those improvements outside of just a scale, looking at your habits, looking at how you're viewing things, looking at your energy, your cravings, and how you're actually managing the different parts of your life with your health. So that's one of the biggest wins that you can have. Now, system number 4 is having a feedback loop. One of the things that every dad misses when it comes to weight loss is that they're not actually looking at how are things progressing. Again, simply like system number 3, you're only looking at the scale. But what you really want to look at is, again, holistically, how are things going? And in order to actually improve on those, we need constant feedback. All right, how was your food this week? How was your exercise? Did you actually get everything else done that you needed to? And so inside of my coaching program, what we do is a simple check-off list. Every day you have certain tasks that you need to complete. And if you complete them, then you check them off, right? So then over the course of 7 days, over the course of a month, you can see objectively, hey, you lost weight. And you did that because, again, you were as consistent as you could be with these metrics. Also, you gained weight. Maybe the opposite. All right, well, it's very easy to say. On these days, you didn't stick to the plan. On these days, you didn't end up working out. On these days, you didn't end up getting your steps in. So when you have that data-oriented mind, everything becomes very objective. It's whether you stuck to it or not. In addition, when you have the right feedback, you can actually make those tweaks to accelerate your fat loss. And that's what happens to so many of my clients, is that we're making continuous small tweaks, improvements, week by week, so that in the big picture, the needle ends up being moved better and better, or further and further. So again, just like in your work, you have feedback. Just like in your marriage, you have feedback all the time because your wife says something. And again, treat those same principles into your health and make sure you have feedback. Now, if you want some feedback on your own health and fitness journey, whether you've already started or you're thinking of starting, then all you have to do, there's a link down below in the description. It is a free dad fitness health assessment. All right? No cost to you. Simply share your information below and I'll give you a personalized video based off of where you're at and how to actually improve those things. So again, go check out the link below. It'll give you some free personalized feedback. No cost to you, no strings attached. And enjoy. System number 5, and the very last one, is make sure you have drive. So drive is an acronym that I learned from one of my mentors. D stands for devotion. R is readiness to learn. I is invest. V is vision. And E is exercise. You need to have all of these things in order to make sure that you're actually driven towards your goals. See, if we look at it everything foundationally, let's start at the very beginning. D, devotion. It's hard to be driven towards something if you don't know what you're devoted to. See, most guys end up just saying, oh, I need to lose weight. I need to get healthier. Yeah, We all want to lose weight. We all want to be healthier. But what's really the main thing that you're actually working towards? What are you devoted to? For most guys, for most dads, your devotion should be your family. You need to be healthy for your kids, because if not, every day that you end up spending being overweight, out of shape, is another day where you're giving them a lesser version of yourself. So really, again, look at the big picture. How devoted are you to your wife? If you love her, then you should constantly be striving to be at your best. Now, I don't share those out of shame. I share them to increase awareness. Because especially if you're watching this, I know that you're an amazing dad. You're constantly working hard to provide for your family, to do your best. And the only missing piece is that you've just let yourself go when it comes to your health. So, in order to live up to that vision that you talk to yourself, and that goes into V a little bit more, jumping ahead here, it goes into V. When you think about that vision of the dad that you want to be, the dad who is always there, who shows up, who is present with his family, who has an amazing marriage with his wife and kids, and your kids look up to you, where you're exemplifying discipline and hard work. That vision probably doesn't include you being overweight. So again, it's making sure that you're devoted to the right things, and again, having the right vision. Now, let's go back. After D is R. R is having the readiness to learn. Readiness to learn is simply, hey, let's put the old limiting beliefs that you have when it comes to health and fitness and actually learn new ones. Because if we look at it objectively, what's gotten you here, overweight and out of shape, are those old limiting beliefs, right? Having to think that you have to do hours of cardio, having to think that, you know what, let me just do the same bodybuilding split that I did when I was in college. You're in a different season now. You don't have as much time. Or, you know what, why don't I try keto, all these different diets, intermittent fasting, and everything else? There's a reason why you ended up gaining the weight back. And it's not because, oh, I didn't continue it. Oh, I was more unmotivated. No, because those diets, those systems, those different things, they're not permanent solutions. So it's important to find something where you're improving yourself. Find the right skills. And that's also why a lot of clients end up coming to me, is they want to learn the proper things. They want to make a lifestyle and make sure that their habits that they've built are permanent, so that when their kids see them, their grandchildren, they're passing on the right habits. So that's R. Now, directly to R, I is invest. Invest into yourself, invest into your health. Now, unfortunately, one of the biggest problems that I see is so many dads invest into their work, into their business, into their family, but they don't invest into themselves. Invest into your own health. You want to look at it, again, from the same lens that you view your marriage, that you view your business, your work. View your health the same way, because there's a reason why all those other areas are successful. Now, here's an easy example. You've probably invested tens and hundreds of thousands into your wife. So why do you think you have such a strong marriage? Why do you think your wife loves you? Yeah, it is more than money, but that investment over time is a huge factor into that. So again, treat your health the right way. Now V, we already went through vision, and E is exercise. Exercise not only physically, but exercise the right choices. Exercise the right actions that actually align with your vision, that align with the devotion that you have. And that is what having drive is. If you look at your work and how driven you've been, those are the same principles. So those are the 5 different systems when it comes to how we've implemented. So those are the 5 systems and why my client Joe has been so successful so far with his weight loss. All right. Again, he's lost 18 pounds despite being in the busiest season of his life. And again, he's balancing 12 to 14-hour days, traveling internationally into different time zones. On top of that, his commitment to his wife and kids. So within all that, use those 5 systems and make sure you implement all of them so that you are successful in your health and fitness. Hey, what's up, legend? Thanks again for watching this video. And again, if you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Now, I know if you're watching this, you're a driven dad. You want to continue to be your best. You want to get healthy, not only for yourself, but also for your family. So with that, make sure to watch this next video here, all right? It's going to help you continue to level up and get back to your absolute best using the right systems, the right structure, and the right strategies so that, again, you can be a legend for your family. So go ahead, check out that video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.